This is a video that is a response to Doom and Darkness. He has kind of created a proverbial safe space with his video for those who may have gone too far with their collections. But I mean, come on, how far is too far really? Um, in light of Doom's video, I just wanted to say he's not alone. Um, uh, and kind of console him from my own experience. I'm relatively new to full-time warhammering, as many of you know, and my co-host Vince has decided that I need an intervention. I'd actually recorded this video once before, and what ended up happening was it went for an hour and a half, which inherently wasn't a problem, although I don't think that you guys wanted to watch that much video. But more importantly, it went an hour and a half because there was so much, and the audio and all that was bad, so I'm having to re-record it, which is why I didn't get this out on Sunday. But I say all that to say, when I was going to remake this video, after I had really walked through everything, I realized I have a lot, and I was a little bit embarrassed about it, and Vince said, and I told him, I was like, I don't know if I want to make this video, and he said, no, you have to make this video. This is going to be a public intervention. So he seems to think that I need an intervention. I just recognize that I'm surrounded by a gray plague, a gray sea of plastic, and so I am going to let you decide. Do I have a problem? Do I need to get rid of some armies? If so, what armies? So I am going to just kind of start walking through my stuff, and I'm going to invite you to join along. You can just scroll through if this is too much, and I apologize. In this new format, by the way, the one thing that I've done is I've went through and actually, rather than just read and just identify everything that I have, I went through and actually created lists because it's easier for me to talk about big picture stuff rather than go through each individual model because the photos aren't always real good. So, okay, so grab your favorite beverage, kick back, and get ready to be probably a little bit astonished and outraged. So I will say I was when I finished doing this video. So I'm going to start with my current project shelf. This project shelf is kind of where I've collected my stuff that I'm currently working on. The first one is my Forest Goblins. I've been working on my Forest Goblins for a while now. They're kind of my favorite army. A bunch of it is kind of handcrafted. So everything that you see with like a little star there are things that I've either kit bashed or converted from other things. And so there's a lot of like personalized work here. I've done, you can see my Ragnarok and the Idol of Gork off to the right, and just, I love the aesthetic for the Forest Goblins. It really drew me in, and it's like, I'm pushing to paint. I'm hoping within 3 months or so that I will have it painted. So everything that you see in red is what has been finished painting. Everything that's in white has not been painted yet. But I'm making progress. So I tally these points up according to point totals in 8th edition. It's kind of a universal standard when people are describing their armies as to how many points they have. So I thought, why not? I'll do that, and I was pretty, yeah, you'll see. So 3,700 points of Forest Goblins. So nice little force. This is what I'm currently working on. These are my dwarves from my budget of Sigmar. Like I said, I have a bunch of this stuff painted. Off to the right, there's a small unit of additional quarrelers that weren't part of my budget of Sigmar, but I had picked them up. They were painted. They're less than $1 a piece. Just a great deal. Unfortunately, I felt like they were a steal when I got them because, like I said, they were less than $1 a piece. But that was all before I actually saw their Age of Sigmar War Scroll. And I realized that was before I realized just how terrible Quarrelers are in the new edition, especially compared to Thunderers. So, like I said, I got a steal, let me say this way, it was a steal, but I think I was the victim. They're pretty terrible. So I'll probably end up selling that little lot of like 16 Quarrelers or whatnot. But I have 2,900 or so painted dwarves so far. These are I've just started with in the last about 4 months or so. Here's what I'm currently working on, my January budget of Sigmar pledge. It's about 530 points or so. It's 10 Longbeard, the Flame Cannon with Crew, Forge World Slayer, and the Forge World Thane Standard Bearer. It looks good. I love these guys. Like I said, I got a really good deal on my dwarves, and so it's allowed me to actually like include a whole bunch more, which that's going to be a recurrent theme that you're going to see is that I do a lot of eBay shopping and secondary market shopping, and I get really good deals, which has allowed me have very large budget of Sigmar pledges, but it's also created what we might call a bloat in my collection. And so, yeah. So here's my unpainted dwarves. They're in kind of columns. That first column on the left is what I'm planning on doing for next month in my budget of Sigmar. The column after that is what I'm doing for my final month of budget of Sigmar, and then the stuff on the far right is just excess stuff that I had. So I should have all of the Dwarven War Scrolls from Age of Sigmar by the time I get done with this. And also in that, there's some stuff that's in that box that I need to like strip or paint or just do stuff like that to put stuff together. And like I have additional bits of like extra cannon bits that aren't on here, and extra like extra organ gun bits that are in the box, and so I'm going to use those to build my Dwarven airship. Hopefully, sometime in the next couple months after I get done with these dwarves, I think. Okay, so here are my Night Goblins. I've actually been running Night Goblins as part of when I play Mordheim, and so I kind of gathered a bunch of these here. There's those Mangler squids in the front are actually a pair of magnetized. I'm going to split them off and have 2 Manglers. And I really like kind of accidentally ended up having most of a like Night Goblin force, and so between this and some of the other stuff that I have. And so I only need to, I'm probably going to pick up like the Forge World set of Night Goblin stuff, and I think I'm going to be done at that point. Like I have this, and I have some other Night Goblins we'll see in a little bit. And it feels like a nice, like little tight force, and I think that it would work pretty well. So that's currently where I'm at with my Night Goblin stuff, and yeah. So let's move on to the next case. So this probably requires some explanation. This glass shelf is it's my collection of armies. I originally wanted around 3 to 4 armies of different types, and so what I did was I did High Elves were my first pick. I had and then I did Tomb Kings, Orcs and Goblins with a focus on Forest Goblins initially, and then also Chaos Dwarves. You know, I wanted Chaos Dwarves because I liked the Chaos aesthetic, and I also liked the Dwarf aesthetic, and so I wanted to kind of knock out 2 birds with 1 stone and get a Chaos army and a Dwarf army all out of the deal. That was the plan. But we all know that that didn't work, given my budget of Sigmar army that we just looked at. So it's an interesting that I actually, you know, when I think about this, that I actually chose 4 armies that ironically map to the 4 factions of the Age of Sigmar: Order, Destruction, Chaos, and Order, Destruction, Chaos, and Death. So, anyways, I thought that was neat. But yeah, so here's my case that I keep a lot of my stuff in. So here's my High Elves. These were my babies. You can see I have just about 8,200 points of High Elves. Everything that's in red is painted. I have a couple models painted. I could definitely spend some more time here. I technically said that my Phoenix cards were painted. Those were in the middle, but I really need to highlight those still and do a lot of like some blending work on the whites. So those are definitely not done, but they are definitely tabletop worthy at this point. Those Phoenixes are some that I commissioned Vince to do. He did a fantastic job with those, and so I wanted my Phoenix card to get done so that when I could field a Phoenix army on the table. And yeah, I have a lot of High Elves. I love High Elves. I wanted to basically be able to field any combination of stuff in 8th edition. This was my primary 8th edition army, and I was with these numbers. Obviously, there are a couple units that I was missing. But I could generally field the type of stuff that I would want to do. Special mention to my White Lions off to the left. It's a bunch of smattering of like gold and different colors and stuff like that. I picked those up in a lot, an eBay lot, and for like 50 White Lions, it ended up being like $43 that I won an auction for. It was awesome. Just like, and it's deals like that. Like I just can't turn that stuff down. Like, I only originally had 5 Dragon Princes. I've never fielded more than 5 Dragon Princes on the table. But when I saw like a box of Dragon Princes for $20, free shipping, I was like, man, I can't say no to that. Like, those sculpts are so fantastic. So that's what I ended up with, and somehow I ended up with 10 because of that. So, and maybe a couple more, we'll see. So here are my Dark Elves. I really originally hadn't intended to do Dark Elves. This was kind of a I like Dark Elves. I like their aesthetics, but I was planning on doing High Elves. And then End Times Kane launched, and I was like, man, I could throw some Dark Elves in my High Elf army. And so, like, originally the plan was to do. So I had a bunch of Corsairs, and I was running them on a block with Alariel, which was awesome. And so I've converted over. Like, I wanted to like tease out the bestial aspect of these Dark Elves, and so like anybody that was normally on a horse, I converted them and had them on Cold Ones. And so like those Dark Riders are on Cold Ones, and I have Cold One Knights on Cold Ones, and and I like the look. I think that it's a nice kind of classy look. There's, like I said, I have a nice mix of stuff, and there's not much more that I would need between this and some of the other Dark Elves that I have. Okay, moving on. So I have 2,400 points of Chaos Dwarfs that are built and assembled. Some of them still need the base, like the Kadai Destroyer, which is a Titan Forge model in the back, in the top right. Needs a base, and a couple of these guys need to obviously be put back on bases and repaired. Some of the Bull Centaurs, man, I got a great deal on Chaos Dwarves, and it ended up being almost like 25% of the retail or so. It was another auction that I won, and not only did it have all of the Forge World stuff that I wanted in the right numbers, but it also had all of the secondary market stuff. So it was like the Russian alternative, like Blunderbuss Chaos Dwarves, which are great sculpts, by the way. I highly recommend them. It had the Raging Heroes, like Manticore Lamassu conversion, which was fantastic. You can barely see that in the back left of this picture. And it had the Kadai Destroyer from Titan Forge, and it was just a fantastic lot. In the front left, I don't think you can see it, like in the front middle, I guess, is it's a sculpt. It's a resin sculpt of a Chaos Dwarf that was sculpted by somebody within the community. They did a limited run. This Chaos Dwarf player did of like 500 models, and literally it is the best model. His name's like Belshook or something, and he, like, if you are interested in Chaos Dwarfs at all, pick him up. He's fantastic. I love that dude, and I think you can still get them on eBay. They're not too expensive. They originally, like, when the original cast cost, he's shipping out of like somewhere in the Eastern Europe, and the ship cost to the U.S. the whole model shipped, I think, was around $15 initially. So if you're paying more than that, you're being scalped, or there's been a markup on the market. I'll say it that way. So okay, moving on. Tomb Kings. Here's my undead army. I love my Tomb Kings. Got my Nagash painted up front. I guess technically I don't have it here, but the Morghast Arkai is kind of tabletop painted. That's how I got him. I got an awesome deal on like a Tomb King Vampire Count lot, as you guys knew. I've started some conversions here from some Tomb King stuff, or some Vampire Count stuff, to be Tomb Kings, because I really like the Tomb Kings aesthetic, and so that's kind of the plan. I have 3 Ushabti in the back right. I have to be careful and check my case every time Vince comes over, because he wants to sneak off. Doom and Darkness, I'm warning you, he's making plans to fly over and steal your Ushabti. He is. You don't see that many Ushabti as what you have in your army, and I think he is going to lift them from you. So I'm warning you. Put them under lock and key. Okay, moving on. Those are my Tomb Kings. So I have some more just common Orc and Goblins. I picked up a lot of Orcs and Goblins the other day for resale, and there were a handful of units that I really liked out of there, and one of them was this big old block of 25 Black Orcs. They just looked fantastic, and so with that I was like, well, I can get some Airboys, and I can use this as a little like Orc warband on Mordheimer, a small Age of Sigmar force. That would be fun. So decided to keep them. You can see them all kind of piled in here. On the front right. You can't see him real well, but that's my. It's the model from the limited edition Warhammer Online. It's the Grumlock and Gazbag. It's this huge black orc with this leader with this little goblin shaman on his shoulder. He's really blocky. A lot of people don't like him. I'd encourage you to Google him. It's Grumlock, Grumlock. And he's an awesome mini. I really love him. Like I said, some people don't like how blocky he is. But for Orc and Goblin players, if you're looking for a big Black Orc character, especially because you don't have to fit him in rank and file anymore, he would be a fantastic mini for you. Okay, so like I said, this is only like 1,300 points of Orcs and Goblins. You know, obviously to go with my Force Goblins and my Night Goblins you saw here. Okay. So there's this. Well then, I guess we need to talk about this. Yeah. So at the top is is an Age of Sigmar box that I haven't opened yet. I'm not going to review that because I don't have point values for all that Khorne force and that that Sigmar force, and I haven't really opened it up yet. And I don't know. So and then that Skullvein Man's box up there is actually a bunch of old Mordheim figs. So it's a bunch of Skaven and stuff like that. And I don't really consider them an army I have, even though there's 20 or 30 figs. So I'm just going to leave those up there and not ignore those. Those boxes up on the top right are bits boxes. And what you see at the top, like shelf and a half, are boxes of stuff that's new in box or new on sprue. I wanted to keep things in box just in case some stuff I never got to, and so that I could resell easily. And so you can see that list on the left-hand side. Obviously, the new additions to what you've seen so far here is, in addition to kind of shoring up some of those other armies, I have a small entry of Empire and Wood Elves here. The Wood Elves, I got a fantastic lot on eBay, a bunch of new in-box stuff that's here in some of those cardboard, but like those brown boxes below that I'll cover in a minute. But so I have those Wood Elves, and I was like, hey, Kane, I can run them. That would be fun. I like some of the models. And I actually thought that the aesthetic for elves was going to move more towards where the Wood Elves were. And so I was like, well, I have these, and I'll make these my Age of Sigmar army if they ever, this thing ever comes out. Likewise, for the Empire stuff, I have a little Nuln force that I'm kind of working on for Mordheim. And I'm planning on, when the TGG2 Kickstarter delivers, I have a bunch of the Empire priest checks showing up. So I'm going to use those as a Sigmar faithful army. So I'm going to do like a Huracan and a Luminar being towed by like flagellants with the little in the stocks and stuff like that. So that's some of the Empire stuff that you see that is cropped up here. Some of the stuff like the Witch Elf boxes, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with, considering how terrible Witch Elves are in the new edition. But yeah, I have 2 more Arachnaroks up here, you see, and I'm going to use those, obviously, to complete my Forest Goblin Warband. I already have 50 Spider Riders on the shelf, so I don't know what I'm going to do with these 10. I think I got them I think I got like the whole box delivered for $15 or something like that, and so I picked up another box of Forest Goblins, Spider Riders that I have no idea what I'm going to do with. So, okay. You can just... oh, yeah, I probably need to explain those Lothern Skycutters. So there's 4 boxes of Lothern Skycutters here. I was afraid with Age of Sigmar dropping that they weren't going to be available anymore. It's not that I really wanted them. It's just that they were the only unit in 8th edition that I didn't actually own. And so, for completionary sake, I thought, well, I'll get 3 of them. I'll get one with, one and put a hero on it, and then do 2 normal ones. That's the max I'd probably field in 8th edition. And I got those for, like 60% of retail or something like that. So I was like, oh, that's a great deal. So I picked them up. Because those aren't normally things you see on sale. And then I was on eBay, and I saw, like, a couple months after that, another Lothern Skycutter on auction, and I was like, well, I'll throw a max bid of like $30, which is half of retail. It was a new in box. I was like, somebody's clearly going to overbid this, and they didn't. And so I ended up getting that other box for like $30. So I have 4 now. But luckily, in Age of Sigmar, you can actually field them in units, full units. So I may be fielding 3 to 4 Skycutters, probably 3 Skycutters and 1 with a hero on it. That's probably the plan. Okay, moving on. So in those actual cardboard boxes below are often bits of models that I've picked up on eBay, where like I've brought a bunch of pieces together, um, and have assembled additional like units and characters and stuff like that. The standouts out of this group of stuff that I haven't put together yet is my 10 Maiden Guard. I actually like went through and I'm gonna build my own set of Maiden Guard, because I just like the other models are nice, but the scale is too small, and I really wanted something that stood out. And so I saw a couple pieces that I was like, oh, that would be good to put it together. So I'm like, going to use like the cloaks from the Phoenix Guards, and I'm going to use like the breastplates from the Sisters of Avalorn, and I'm going to use like the extra long spears from like the elf nobles and the elf nobles and the Tyrnok chariots have these spears with these little dangly things on them. Just real unique looking, and so I'm going to do those. And I pulled together like 10 of the original like Avalorn shields that were from like the 1994 High Elves like dual set of spearmen and archers, where each box came with like 4 different shields from different realms, and so I've gotten all of the Avalorn shields. Like I've gotten 10 Avalorn shields from a bunch of different boxes that I've picked up. And so, anyways, so I have those. I can't wait to build those Sisters of Avalorn. It's going to be a sweet little force. Okay, so here's some more Dark Elves that I have. Those Doomfire Warlocks that you see that I did some kit bashing on. Those are actually like I made them out of Cold One Knights. So I'll have Doomfire Warlocks on Cold Ones, and I'll have Dark Riders on Cold Ones, and I'll have Cold One Knights on Cold Ones and stuff like that. And they're gonna look sweet. What else here? Those transfer sheets. I got like 10 transfer sheets or 9 transfer sheets for like $5 on eBay. Man, I saw that when that was going on, and I just like, how do you say no to that? I've never used transfer sheets, but that's a really good deal on those, and I'll probably use them. I don't know if I have any units that have shields to use them. I guess I'd have a couple Dread Spears that I might be able to use them. I don't know. I'll have to figure it out. I certainly have some banners that I can use them for. So, yep. So those are my Dark Elves that I need to put together still. Here are my Tomb Kings. Like I said, I've been wanting to, like, Tomb Kings is the aesthetic that I'm going for, and so I have done a bunch of conversion sets. I'm doing a set of, like, Tomb King Black Knights that I'm doing, like, the Black Knight torso and, like, the skirt on the normal skeletal horses with the Tomb King skeletal horses with like the shields from the Necropolis Knights. I think I'm doing like the halberds from the Dark Elf Cold One Knights that I had a bunch of extra of, and they're sweet looking. And so I'm excited to do those. My Hyrule Titan and my Necrolith Colossus are using the Ratham Minis legs, and so I have all the bits in there to build those guys. I have a Tomb King Corpse Cart conversion that I'm working on, and then obviously 10 Hex Wraith conversions, very similar to how I'm doing the Black Knights. So here are my Tomb Kings. Oh, by the way, that War Sphinx actually has a Howdah that I had an extra Howdah, so I'm gonna be able to convert, like have magnetized swappable Howdahs on that one to either do a Tomb King or a third standard War Sphinx. Because I had one in box, one in case, and I have one here. So here are my Chaos Dwarves. Most of my Chaos Dwarves have not been opened, but as you see, I have an abundance of Forge World stuff. I have a Resin Hell Cannon to complement the metal one in my case. I have the old Dreadquake Mortar with Big Hat Chaos Dwarf models, and I just love the sculpts of these guys. And so like I said, I got a really good deal on them, picked them up, and then most of them haven't been assembled, so they've been here. Let me just say, by the way, as an aside, people have talked about how expensive the Forge World Chaos Dwarf army is. Have you looked at their characters? Their pack of 3 Damon Smith characters are only like $35 for 3 characters. That's what it costs in Age of Sigmar for like 1 character sometimes. So, and most of the infantry are like $6 a model, which is not real bad compared to the dwarves. Like the new is it the Volkite or the Hearthguard baby are $8 a model. So like Forge World, suddenly a really good deal, and they're all in resin too, which is obviously very detailed. So I would like I would encourage people to check out the Chaos Dwarves because they're not as bad as not cost wise as bad as what they once were compared to the normal GW lines. Okay. Moving on. So here's the Orcs and Goblins that I have in bag. Here's the rest of those Night Goblins that'll complement those I have on the shelf. Actually, I have 22 more Spider Riders here. Like I said, I have 50 on the shelf. I probably won't ever field that many, so I have no idea what I'm going to do with these Spider Riders. I could probably sell them. I had a bunch of Lotro Goblins I picked up. Like 48 of these I picked up for like $7 at my local at a local game store because they had liquidated, they were getting rid of them, and they weren't carrying them anymore. And so literally, like, they were in these like little, like comic book sleeves, and you can see them up in there in the top middle. And there were 48 of them, and each package was like $4.50 because it was like 75 or 80% off of what they were originally selling them for. They're just trying to get rid of them, and I jumped on it. So I'm probably going to use them for maybe like my Hobgoblins for my Chaos Dwarves, I'm thinking. I don't know. What else was of note here? Obviously, I have a bunch of more bits packs that I need to build. I'm going to build a Snotling Pump Wagon. Well, I may not do that now because Snotling Pump Wagons need Orcs to be good, not Forest Goblins. But anyways, so I have some additional siege here. I'm going to build a Mangler, Forest Goblin Mangler, out of like it's going to look out of that a couple of the Howdas of Arachnaroks that I have the bits for. And I'm going to actually, it's going to kind of look like a Doom Wheel, and spiders are going to be running inside, and they're going to, it has a bunch of like spiky bits, and they're going to crash into stuff. So I felt like that felt suitably Mangler-ish as a sub for my Forest Goblins. So yeah, so here's the rest of my Goblins, another 2,100 points of Orcs and Goblins. So Doom and Darkness, please know that I have a shelf like you that just kind of catches things. You can see on the middle, it's black right next to that D&D chainmail box. It's a Mortis engine that I was like repairing and making suitably Tomb Kings-ish. Right next to that is a weird big goblin, like a Reaper spider that I was building a Howdah for. That I was going to maybe turn into like an Orc and Goblin like wolf chariot proxy because it's too small to be an Arachnarok. So I was going to think about like a chariot proxy. So I thought something like that might be neat. Or I thought about doing one of the Orc heroes that's on the chariot. But I stopped that, obviously, because of the synergy stuff and all that wasn't going to work. And then I was also, like, I have a bag of, like, 20 Forest Goblin Archers here, which are the actual sculpts. Like, on the Arachnarok sets of minis, you get 8 Goblins, and 4 of them are Archers. And so I've gotten a bunch of those packs of Arachnarok Goblin, like, Howdah people. And I've put them together to make a unit of 20 Forest Goblin Archers. So then I can have, like, my normal infantry and Forest Goblin Archers. Because, sometimes you need Goblin Archers. And what else here? I think that you can't really see it real well. Right next to that spider's foot is, I did a couple of Fanatics, like Forest Goblin Fanatics. So they're swinging around like big balls of webs and stuff like that. And they have like the mushrooms and all that I'm painting my normal Forest Goblins, and they look really sweet. So there's an original like Snotling Pump Wagon, like the metal double-decker one there. There's a, like I said, there's another pump wagon that I'm actually was making a Forest Goblin one. So yeah, so this is my catch-all shelf. There's just a bunch of junk on there that I need to clean off and sort into boxes and stuff like that. So, So I have some Chaos minis that I also I had picked up. I was on vacation in Orlando, and I was like, I'll check Craigslist just, because that's what I do on vacation. And and somebody was selling like a bunch of like Chaos stuff. It was like the Glotkin and a Magath Lord and a bunch of Peter Blight things, a bunch of other stuff for like $125. He was just trying to liquidate. And he's trying to get out of fantasy because he's a 40K player. And I was like, I am totally on board. Sent him an offer, and he like we settled even lower than his low price, which was crazy. So I couldn't say no to that. I'd wanted some Chaos stuff. Obviously, so you remember the whole Chaos Dwarf thing was originally because I like the aesthetic of both Chaos and Dwarves, and so that didn't work for my Dwarves. Well, clearly it didn't work for my Chaos either. So Had a bunch of Nurgle stuff, and then it's bled into some standard Warriors of Chaos stuff. Um, that's why, like, I only have eight Chaos Warriors of Chaos, 8 Marauders. I'm not planning on actually using those Marauders. Like, if I use any of those, it'll obviously be for something like Mordheim or something like that. I'm not doing any standard units of those. I'd like to get another box of Warriors. I really don't need more minis, but I'd like to get another box of Warriors of Chaos, I think. Um, yeah. Yeah, so it'd be a nice big number for Chaos Warriors. Those Warriors of Chaos and those Marauders I picked up for less than $1 a mini, new on sprue. Somebody was just liquidating their stuff on eBay. So I don't know how you can say no to deals like that. It's so fantastic. And then so I have 10 Bloodstokers there. They were like $1 a piece from somebody that was selling that had broken out the lots on eBay, and I picked them up for like $1 a piece. And I'm actually going to use them to build Chaos Chariots and Gorby's Chariots. So they're going to be my charioteers. Now, I have those like little asterisk symbols because back when those aren't built yet, and I haven't fully gathered all the bits for those. But back when back in December, Bullet Bits was liquidating their inventory and weren't selling on eBay anymore. And so they basically, all of their bits for each of their armies they had, or each of their units, basically, they would just sell everything together to get rid of it. And like most of the auctions weren't going up at all, and so most of them were like $5. So I picked up some of those, and you see the priority mailboxes there are those bits. And so I ended up winning like the lots for like $5 each for like the Chaos Chariot, the Chaos War Shrine, the Ragnarok, the Ogre Iron Blaster, the Dwarf Hammers, Longbeards, Dwarf Iron Breakers, Iron Drakes, the Gyrocopters, and I think 1 or 2 other lots were like, so like each of those sets were like $5 or something like that, and it was like hundreds of bits. I ended up getting like 13 like gore beasts out of the deal and a bunch of other stuff. So I'm still working through them to kind of figure out what it is. Here's a snapshot of those bits. So I'm at least going to make 3 gore beast chariots, 3 normal chaos chariots out of the deal, and I'm going to use those Bloodstokers as my charioteers. So I'll have made each chariot for like $4 or so, equivalent. Technically, probably a lot less than that. Probably close to like $1.50, because if you want to calculate like a bit per bit price, so it's fantastic. I don't know what I'm going to do with most of these bits. I'll probably have to just resell them. So we were under the table a couple minutes ago, and you saw my Hellfort down there. In that other box that's there, I have the rest of my AOS terrain. It's all new in box still. A lot of like obviously the Dreadhold I'm going to all paint in similar scheme. You'd seen it on my Chaos shelf. I've started one of them to kind of get the paint scheme right, and then I'll work through. This is probably all of the Dreadhold that I'll need. That, as I had mentioned before, that box on the left, it is an awesome deal by GW. So if you're interested at all in it, it's on the while stocks last list. So if that's something that you're interested in, you need to pick that up, because it's going to go away, and it's literally like half of retail cost for all that stuff. And then the rest of these, that Ophidian Archway, by the way, back at Christmas, I had ordered from one of the online gaming things, and after a week, I hadn't heard anything. I asked if they had shipped my order yet, and they said it had been misplaced. And in response, they offered to ship me a free Ophidian Archway to kind of make up for them dropping the ball on that. So I totally jumped on it. I went to sell it, and they're only going for like $20 to $25 on eBay, so they're not really a whole lot. And so I felt like I'd just hold on to it for now, and maybe move it a little bit later down the road. So, but like I said, I like terrain, and this isn't my only terrain. So here's basically most of GW's terrain that they've had in the last so many years that I have. The piece, the Skullbane Manor up in the upper left, it's the piece that actually drew me into the hobby. There's a very similar piece of art book in the Warhammer Online art book that came with like the collector's edition. You can see it here on the picture now. and I just fell in love with that. I loved all of the aesthetic from Warhammer Online, and so when I saw this this model, I was like, man, I want that piece of terrain. It's only like $70 at the time. It was an awesome deal for such a large piece of terrain, especially when you compare it to other miniature terrain stuff. And so I jumped on it, and that is what kind of started me down this long road of Warhammer stuff, was this art piece that I was like, man, I'd love to have that on my shelf. You can see, yeah, I have a bunch of different terrain pieces. I have like a triple size Garden of Moor down in the bottom left. I bought like one base set, and then I expanded it a bunch from different sets on eBay and different lots that I had picked up and stuff like that. And so when we play Mordheim, we can have like very large graveyards, and that's fun. In the top right, you can see some of my non-GW terrain. The Aztec stairs and the Sphinx are aquarium pieces. The set of stairs and ruins right in front of the Aztec stuff is a set of ruins that I painted. So I have a piece of painted terrain here, and those are the Reaper terrain stuff. And then down in the bottom right is a bunch of like fences and the Escape from Goblin Town, like goblin walkways. So that when we want like elevated stuff, it's easy to make that with those goblin walkways. And apparently I have a Hellblaster, I think 2 cannons down there, and 2 Skaven Rattling gun teams just hanging out in the ruins of Mordheim. So, but again, I'm not totally unreasonable. I am trying to get rid of some of my models, but they're in the other room. So here's some of the stuff that I'm in the process of moving. I have this is the stuff that I'm selling or planning on selling. The top 2 card boxes there, each of those are like old metal Dark Elf Reaper bolt throwers. The third box is actually 2 fine cast Orc and Goblin Chukkas. There's the Kings of War Basilean Dragon and like 11 metal Flamer torsos that I'm trying to move right now. Below in the box, there's a bunch of like individual minis. There's couple clan packs of Blackguard, a couple metal swordsmen, some command models, a mounted Tomb Kings, like mounted Lich Priest model, and some other stuff. I'm not quite sure. That lonely plague bear that is down there on that second shelf, I've actually already moved. He's been shipped out already. So hey, I got rid of one of the models that has been in this video so far. And then I have 2 complete sets of Island of Blood here that I haven't really decided what to do with yet. Because if I kept those, like the Skaven would be a great start to an actual Skaven force with the 30 or so that I have. Then I'd only have to get a handful of models, maybe some Storm Fiends, a Doom Wheel, and then I'd have a nice, like, solid Skaven force. Yeah, I guess I don't need any more models. But if I kept that, I'm like already halfway to a decent sized Skaven horse. So, anyways, yeah. So you can sound off and let me know if you think I should keep those Islands of Blood. Okay. So to wrap things up, here are my numbers in 8th edition numbers added up across the video: 12,300 points of High Elves. 10,000 points of Orcs and Goblins, 9,500 points of Tomb Kings, 8,400 points of Dark Elves, 8,100 points of Dwarves, 6,500 points of Chaos Dwarves, 5,800 points of Legions of Chaos, 2,400 of Wood Elves, 1,300 of Empire. I have approximately 64,000 points in 8th edition points of Warhammer minis. And I have about 8,500 points painted at this point, which is about 13%. So my wife asked me a couple months ago if I had all the armies, to which I responded, of course not. Then she asked, well, how many armies did I have? And at the time, I had 7. Obviously, I've gained a couple small forces, my Empire and my Legions of Chaos since then. And so I said 7 at the time, and she said, well, how many armies are there? Oh, I told her there were 16, and so she seemed content and dropped the line of questioning. Obviously, I think the scope of what having those armies wasn't real clear to her. She can tell that I have a lot of minis, but yeah. So I probably have a problem by most people's estimations. Like, I admit that. The fact that I was reticent to make this video suggests that I probably have too many minis. But to be honest, like I've only invested about $1,000 or a little bit more maybe in this hobby since I started almost 18 months ago. So in the last 18 months, like I've invested some of my own money from like birthdays and Christmas and stuff like that, but largely this has all come from buying and selling and reselling on eBay, and interacting and using the secondary market. Um, so like I don't feel bad because I haven't invested lots of money to get all of this. Like I have, but it's anything that I've gotten, I've reinvested in the hobby. I've kept a separate account for it, so it's not touching our budget. And so is it like the question is it a problem to just have these models if it's not cost? I mean, I guess utility wise, it's costing me money. Because I guess I could liquidate and sell a lot of this and use that money for something else, but. My wife said when we started that anything that I sell on eBay, I think she wanted to encourage me to kind of do pick up eBay stuff on the side, and she said any of my hobby stuff that I sell on eBay, I can keep the proceeds for, and that I can use for my own hobbying stuff. And so I've multiplied it into this over the last 18 months. So yeah. So is it a problem to have this much, even if I'm not necessarily, like, to paint all this as Vince jokes around, like, it's probably going to be 2022 before I get through most of this stuff painted. And that's assuming that I don't buy any more armies. So for those of you that feel overwhelmed by the need to paint, I hope that you're encouraged that you aren't alone. Moving forward, I welcome feedback from you guys on how I should proceed. I've decided to put off my Fire Slayer purchase at this point until November. I'm hoping to be through some of my current projects, and then when I do that, I want to pick up like my Chaos Dwarves, and I'd love to pick up a set of Fire Slayers and do them all in like similar themed bases and color schemes and stuff like that. But I've decided to put those off till at least November to work through some of my stuff. And as you saw, at least I'm selling some of my stuff. So if you think that I should sell an army, what do you think that army should be? And alternatively, if you think that I should get a new army, what should that new army be? Should I build out my empire? Should I get rid of my wood elves? What do you guys think? So I'm going to open it up. Can't wait to hear. Actually, I'm kind of scared to hear comments below. Sound off, and I look forward to interacting with you guys. Have a nice day.